Imagine you are sitting at a table in a restaurant with a menu of choices to order from, and the kitchen is the part of the system that will prepare your order. What is missing is the critical link to communicate your order to the kitchen and deliver your food back to your table. That's where the waiter or API comes in. Here, the waiter is the messenger or API that takes your request or order and tells the kitchen, that is the system, what to do. Then the waiter delivers the response back to you, and in this case, it is the food. So you may be wondering why we are talking about restaurant, waiter, kitchen, food, and all. Let's wait for some time. Hello, hi there. Welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series, the Guiding Voice for a better future. This podcast is to help professional students, IT employees, and entrepreneurs to shape their careers. Dear listeners, in every episode, we interact with industry experts or thought leaders or academicians or coaches across the globe to drive some insightful conversations that will help each one of you learn great things. Also, we share an interesting trivia or a fun fact about the IT world or technology towards the end. Thank you for tuning in. This is Naveen Samala and with my co-host Sudhakar Naganla. So folks, today we are going to discuss the topic API world and we are pleased to welcome Chaitanya to our show.
A master's in computer science from Old Dominion University, Chaitanya Guntur is the chief engineer at Demandbridge, a software company that builds ERP and accounting software for the promotional and print distributorship industry. Joined this company from his campus, and for the past 21 years, Chaitanya has been instrumental in architecting the new products for Demandbridge. For the last 27 years of my association with Chaitanya, one thing that did not change is his passion for technology. He always wanted to create something big with the help of technology. So it is indeed a great opportunity to talk to Chaitanya about this evergreen technical topic, APIs, which is creating a lot of buzz in the industry of late. Chaitanya, welcome to our show.
Sudhakar and Naveen, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be a part of the guiding voice, which has become a phenomenon in the podcast world. Let's get started.
Cool. So, Chaitanya, what is API in layman terms?
The API definition, going back to its origins, the standard technical definition is application programming interface. That's how it started out in the earlier olden times of programming and software development. And originally, the goals of the concept of an API were to promote modular software development and to build systems that are loosely coupled and for abstraction and hiding information between the various pieces of a complex system to promote ease of development and to manage change across the various parts of a system. And examples of traditional APIs back from the original days of software development would be if we take popular programming languages like Java or Perl or C Sharp and another popular language that has exploded in recent times, Python. These languages provide libraries of functions and subroutines for programmers to leverage and build more complex systems based on those foundations and fundamentals. So that's nothing but the concept of an application programming interface API. From that traditional foundation, we have evolved over time, and we have a very rich landscape of what APIs have evolved into, which we can talk about as we go. But the traditional definition is still relevant, and the fundamentals of what APIs allow us to achieve are still relevant in today's world. It provides
Excellent.
for having an API is a requirement in today's world for any software development system. And we can say that it provides many different advantages in addition to everything that I talked about.
Yeah, you talked about loosely coupled systems, functions, and subroutines, and at the end you said, this provide us advantages. What are the kind of significant advantages are you referring to?
Again, there is the traditional software development advantages that APIs provide. And in the modern world, there are other financial and business related advantages as well. From a software development point of view, APIs allow for resilience to change by allowing loosely coupled systems to interact with each other using APIs for communication. They allow for modular development where different teams and different geographically distributed teams even can build separate parts of the system without having to worry about what the entire system will look like down the line. So these goals of software development are what APIs allow for. In addition to that, in today's world, having a well documented API that allows external clients and your business partners to integrate with your software product is a core part of your business model and allows for a significant chunk of revenue for modern software development companies that build product. So both from a software development point of view as well as from a business point of view, APIs have taken over a life of its own. And those are the examples of significant advantages that APIs allow in today's world.
So, Chaitanya, now that we have spoken about the advantages of using these APIs, can you share a practical or a real world example of an API?
My favorite example is what I typically do when I have a question in my daily professional life. When I'm sitting at a computer and I face a common question: what is something? And that something can be something in my personal life, my professional life, about technology, the day-to-day world that is out there. And the first thing we do is we go fire up the browser and type in something into a Google search box. And the responses that we get for our question bring the world to our fingertip. That is an example of a use of an API where the Google search is the function that is being performed by the specific tool that you're using. It can be the browser, it can be your mobile phone, it could be any electronic device that is capable of interacting with the Google API provider on the other side. The API itself is a guide as to how to interact with the Google search system on the other side. And the results are, as you can see, that the way the API was implemented has allowed Google to vault into the number one spot even in today's world after so long in that space. Of course, on the other side, the API itself is meaningless if the product and the algorithm that Google's search is built upon is not good enough. So you can't just say that the API is everything, but the API is a way to the means of delivering the value of the product behind it. And my example is leveraging the concept of a web API in today's world. This is a more specific evolution of APIs from taken from right from the origin of software development to when we fast forward to today's world. When somebody says API, this is an example of a more common a- types of APIs that are present, a web API. Other examples of web APIs can be people use Dropbox, Twitter, or Slack for day-to-day interaction with those products. Those products are all primarily built with web-based APIs that are leveraged to build clients that interact with those products.
So, in fact, it reminds me of my good old coding days wherein we have written some APIs which are used to interact through our Java code to a COBOL program, and which is meant to create an order or track an order, and all that all happened through this regular APIs. But you mentioned about web API, right? So, that is a term that we are coming across very frequently these days. So, how do you define these web APIs, or can you elaborate what these web APIs are all about?
That's a very good question, the way you phrased it. The web based APIs or web APIs are one particular subclass of the many different types of API technologies that have evolved and at various times in the past 3 to 4 decades have taken up leadership in the market space and then sort of fallen back by the wayside as a newcomer has stepped up and gained popularity. Right now, it is, I think, safe to say that web APIs are enjoying their day in the limelight. The difference between, or what keeps web APIs apart from the other types of APIs that are available, like in your example of a Java program interacting with a COBOL program, that that might have been through specific what are called remote process invocations, not necessarily relying on technology that modern web APIs use. So what keeps them separate is the way that web APIs are built and designed to be invoked. Web APIs are built on a platform that uses the HTTP protocol for communication. So our the protocol that drives the World Wide Web and the internet today is the exact same protocol that's used in web APIs. So that way, web APIs naturally lend themselves to coexisting in this ecosystem, which is no different from everyday internet. And if a web API of today follows the REST principles, stands for representational state transfer. And if a web API is RESTful, then it is able to interact with clients in a very specific way that allows clients to make assumptions that are always correct as to how those APIs behave. That allows for a very easy implementation of products that leverage these APIs, these web APIs. So in today's world, web APIs have become very popular because of that ease of use and a consistent and ability to leverage the HTTP protocol that is common to the internet.
So, Chaitanya, you talked about the traditional good old APIs with the example that Naveen picked of a Java program pulling the data from COBOL or vice versa. And you talked about the evolution of web APIs and the REST principles that are available as of today. So, what are some of the common tools and technologies that are used in this REST web API world?
As I said, the web API space evolved as side by side development of the World Wide Web and the internet. So a lot of the tools and technologies used within the web API space are common to the tools and technologies used for building the internet in general. A fundamental knowledge of markup languages is key to understanding how web based APIs function. For example, knowing a markup language like HTML allows for understanding how a browser can interpret and display content delivered via the HTML markup data format. Evolving on top of HTML has been the concept of XML, which is a more formalized representation of data using tags, and that particular markup language has become over time it became very popular and was key for certain types of API technologies like the SOAP protocol, which is a simple object access protocol. And on top of that, now in modern web APIs, we've got the the new data format called JSON, which stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and that is building on top of the XML standard, and it has become very popular for its ability to convey the same types of information as its previous predecessors like XML, as well as the ability to do that in a much smaller footprint. So the bandwidth required for exchanging the same type of information that would be possible through an equivalent XML payload is much smaller when you use JSON. And that has led to an explosion in its popularity in today's world. So knowledge of JSON, use of the HTTP protocol, and some of the tools, the clients that allow for building and interacting with web APIs are what is required to make a mark in this space. Some of the tools would be, for example, a common tool that I use in my day to day life when working with APIs is called Postman. This tool is a commercial software, but there's also a free version available, which allows for somebody who's starting out to have a quick ability to get their feet wet in this space. And Postman has a web based and a desktop version that allows for easy interaction as a client with any available web API, which might be commercial web APIs or publicly available web APIs.
So
Those
with
are some of
the
the tools and technologies.
with the advantages you highlighted about APIs, I'm sure our audience will be really interested in taking this forward. What are some of the resources to gain further knowledge about APIs at large?
The first and best resource would be the internet. For me, I have always had good results learning about new tools and technologies by using the trusty Google search. Whenever there is a question, we I don't know of anybody who doesn't go type it in into Google search and gets reliable results in the very first page. So that would be where I would go to research further about API concepts and specific technologies. And the next resource would be, in general, just to get good definitions and a high level overview. I always go to Wikipedia for learning about concepts and then digging deeper into related tools and technologies. Again, like I said, Wikipedia is a very high level summary, all collected in one place, but it's a very good starting point to gain knowledge of core concepts so that you can start out with good fundamental knowledge. And further, using available free resources would be also a good way to get started on your own if you don't have the advantages of a software development company behind you with tools that are provided for you. You can still leverage tools like Postman and simple browser developer plugins that are available in modern browsers today, like Chrome and Firefox.
These are some real solid resources to learn with, learn more about the APIs and all. And thanks for the amazing conversation so far. So, Chaitanya would like to spice up this conversation with a few rapid fire questions, wherein we are going to ask you some interesting questions and you can answer in one or two words. Are you ready for it?
I am ready for it, and I will caution you that one or two words might not be enough. So I reserve the right to expand on
Fair
this.
enough.
Sure.
Yeah.
Three words there.
Yeah. Sure. So here comes the first bullet from our rapid fire. And what is the biggest risk that you have ever taken?
This is one of those long answers. Going back to my college days after graduation, I was looking to see what I could do next. It was year 2000, and as people of my generation will know, the Y2K problem and the dot com boom was happening at that point in time. So Silicon Valley was the place to be in San Francisco. When you introduced me at the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned that I was a graduate of the Old Dominion University. That's located in Virginia on the east coast of the United States. So for after graduation, naturally to go to Silicon Valley, which is on the west coast of the country, that's clear to 3,000 miles difference between the two coasts. So I got into my car and with my roommate who was in a second car, the two of us decided we were going to drive coast to coast, and we drove 3,000 miles, 4 days and 3 nights across the United States when we were 22 years old. So that's the biggest risk that I took, which didn't seem like a risk at that point in time. It was a grand adventure. And I
Yeah.
don't know that I'll be able to ever do that again in this lifetime.
Absolutely. I think this will be something which you will cherish forever. I had similar incident where me along with my two friends, we traveled overnight about 300 kilometers on a bike through forest area and all. It was like 20 years ago, and now I look back, it sounds so scary and all. And thanks for sharing that incident. Here comes my next bullet. What could you talk about for hours together with absolutely no preparation? What kind of topic?
I think it would be my current role in the company, which is systems integration, and as a result, interacting with these APIs between systems. That's also been the topic of today's conversation, and the reason for that is because I am immersed in that in the last few years of my life. So that's something that I'm very comfortable talking about.
Great. Here comes the next bullet. What is a fun fact about you?
I don't know if others will consider this a fun fact, but I love playing cricket in my free time, and I am an avid cricket follower, as probably half of the country is in India, if not more. That's been my go-to hobby all my life outside of work.
Sure. And here comes the next one. Given a chance to interview a celebrity, who would you choose?
Speaking of cricket, that would be I'm from the Sachin Tendulkar era, after which there was the Mahendra Dhoni era and then the Virat Kohli era. And I would say we of the Sachin Tendulkar era are very loyal and still Sachin fans, no matter what era is current in cricket. So Sachin Tendulkar would be my choice of a celebrity I would love to spend some face time with.
There's no wonder. Yeah, he's the legend of cricket. One last question from the rapid fire round. If you were to rename yourself, what would it be?
So my story with about my name is I have two brothers, and so we were named similar sounding names. My name is Chaitanya, and my twin brothers are named Ananya and Anyonya. So I guess we are too tightly coupled here with names to be able to change our names easily. We would break convention, right? So, but about a name, I have heard from my mother that she wanted to possibly name me Gautam when I was a kid. So maybe that could be a alternative.
Awesome. And thanks for sharing those personal details. And you have been such a sport. Thanks for actively participating in the rapid fire. So over to you, Sudhakar.
Thank you, Naveen. So, Chaitanya, or I don't know whether I should call you Gautam now. Um, so, thank you for being such a sport. One final question for this session is, what is your one piece of advice to those aspiring to shine in the technology world?
One thing that is constant in our life, not just in technology, is change. That nothing remains the same. Everything changes over time. Technology evolves, and today's leading software and technology and protocols and products don't remain the same. There will always be something different that comes along in a very short while. So my experience has been you are successful if you keep yourself open and don't resist change and embrace it. So the degree to which you are able to be resilient and embrace change is what allows you to be most successful. You can keep up with the change. The analogy is when a tree faces a harsh wind, the trees that bend are the ones that survive, and the trees that don't bend are the ones that break and fall off. So my advice would be for those who are starting out or who aspire at any point in their life to make a mark would be recognize that change is inevitable and be open to change.
Excellent. So, be open for change. Resiliency to change is the success mantra. Chaitanya, it was phenomenal talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was indeed great experience to talk about the overall API world. We really appreciate you taking time for us.
Thank you. Thank you
All
for
right.
giving
So
me this opportunity as well. I really appreciate it.
All right, so it was pleasure hosting you, Chaitanya. A lot of insights. All right, so it brings us to the trivia segment of today's episode, and today's trivia is about processors. So, folks, which legacy sockets accepted both Intel and AMD CPUs? I know you are thinking, but let me tell you the answer. Socket 5, okay, which was designed and released March 1994, originally designed for second gen P5 Pentium processors among other Intel parts, but it could also accept AMD K5 chips and also x86 Cyrix CPUs and IDT's WinChip series. It was not planned, but it came as a coincidence. Interesting, isn't it? Thank you for listening. There is more in store, folks. Stay tuned. Take care. Be safe. Until next time, bye bye. And we are signing off for today. See you all in the next episode.